Today, we discuss the winter meetings, see what's happening around the Central, and talk potential trade ideas for the Pirates. You're listening to the Bucko Banter podcast, brought to you by the Just Baseball Media Network. Cue the music.
Rockin' 101s, yeah, she compliment my taste. Whiskey in my lemonade, cause I like the way it tastes. Best seats at the Pirates, can they let me run the base? Yeah, my time is like my money, cause I can't afford to waste. Wifey is a lawyer, take my date to my dates. Order steak by the plates, and in case after case, run my race at my pace, clear the grass of the snake.
Welcome back. It's Wednesday, Sunday, December 8th.
Yeah, weekend episode, man.
Weekend episode. Winter meetings are starting. I have my phone open right here, so if it looks like I'm looking down, it's because I want to see if Juan Soto is signing with the Pirates tonight or not. Okay.
Luckily, we have boots on the ground down there. Yeah. Jim Rosati, Donardo from the North Shore 9. They'll keep you updated on the Soto news. Keep your phones open. Keep Twitter, Blue Sky, wherever you get your baseball news, right in your pocket, because I'm hearing Soto to the Pirates, 20 years, $25 million, and unlimited credit at Giant Eagle.
Yeah, I've heard the same. And Sheets too.
He's got to travel a little bit outside the city.
Yeah, true.
So if he's like living in like Cranberry, maybe like the Sheets, like that's contingent based on where he lives. Like he can opt out of the Giant Eagle deal if he wants the Sheets credit card.
Love
Just
that.
depends on where he's lived. Like if he's living down on the North Shore, go over to the Giant Eagle, get yourself some thumbprint.
I would
cookies.
stay out of that Giant Eagle if I were him, but
hey, listen, wherever Swan Soto wants to go.
We also have the 3B reporters on the ground too. We got Noah, Destin, and Stumpf, and Stumpf will bring it to you on Blue Sky if that's your thing. I
think he might have given up on that already.
Did he? Okay.
I've seen the last like 5 reports come out on X, and he had a good run on Blue Sky, but I think he's back to normalcy now. Although Blue Sky's still not bad. Go follow us over there on Blue Sky.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of positive engagement, not a lot of bots. So,
right. Well, man, we got winter meetings coming up, right? A lot of stuff happens in the winter meetings. We've talked about it countless times on this pod. Just myself and Scott and Noah and everyone else that has come on. This is like the who's who of baseball, right? GMs, owners, scouts, people trying to get jobs, baseball ops, everybody coming together, trying to get deals done. You got the Rule 5 draft happening. The lottery is happening for next year's draft. And the Pirates have, historically speaking, made moves during the winter meetings. They haven't been big moves.
Yeah.
By any means, but they've made moves. Last year, Marco Gonzalez happened during the winter meetings. Vince Velasquez also happened during the winter meetings, and a handful of other pitchers. But who's to say this year could be a little bit different? They might go spend a little bit more money or get creative with these deals. I'm telling you what, Scott, they better do something soon, because I know a lot of people were counting on Tyler O'Neill, which we will discuss later on in this episode, but just some sense of urgency, right? Like we've talked about this before, where we want them to go out and attack free agency and make an offer that they can't refuse. I believe Noah was the one that said that when it came to Tyler O'Neill, right? Like put something out there in the $16 to $20 million range right away that it's like, hey, it's not going to get any better than this. And guess what? He signed for 16 and a half for, 3 years. So we weren't wrong about that. It's just, where are their priorities right now?
Yeah, no, I think a week ago I would have said, hey, we're getting a little bit too ahead of ourselves here, because no names that we have been in contact with have flown off the board just yet, or not a ton. But, the news yesterday with Tyler O'Neill, and which we'll get to in a little bit, makes you think like, hey, maybe they should just jump on someone early. Like what's the waiting game for, like this is a very important off season, and we don't have the time to wait and miss out on more guys. So hopefully they make an offer or a trade proposal here down in Dallas this week. Speaking of the winter meetings, it's a big week, man. It's a big week. They run from, technically they started today and they go through Wednesday. And there's going to be a lot of stuff going on. and that starts with tonight. I think we're recording at 6 o'clock on Sunday night. But first things first, tonight is they will kick off with an exciting Hall of Fame announcement. The Classic Baseball Era Committee will meet and determine whether or not any of the players on their ballot will be inducted in the Hall of Fame. We kind of touched on this a little bit in previous episodes. This announcement will take place on MLB Network at 7:30. These players are eligible. Dave Parker being the most notable. He's the Pirate. He was we saw his bobblehead game at PNC this year. Louis Tiant, Dick Allen is a guy I've talked about a lot. He's from my area. Ken Boyer, John Donaldson, Vic Harris, Steve Garvey, and Tommy John. To get into the Hall of Fame, these guys need 12 of the 16 votes, or 75% or more. So it's just like a normal Hall of Fame induction. You need that 70. You need to clear that 75% mark, but there's only 16 votes. So
fingers crossed for Dave Parker. I think we established like this is a Hall of Fame career he deserves to be in. It would be nice to see another Pirate go into the Hall of Fame, but then Monday is when things get rolling, right? No special events noted, but free agents are going to sign. Players might be traded. Press conferences will be had for potential moves and so forth. So look for a Juan Soto deal, right?
Yeah.
And then as we discussed before, once that happens, which is reported to be anywhere between $710 to $730 million, a lot of teams are, let that sink in real quick. $710 million to $730 million for one player.
Yeah, I think we're gonna. I saw a funny tweet, and this wouldn't surprise me. Obviously this is an exaggeration, but what if it comes January and Juan Soto, we get the headlines that say Cohen raised his offer to $940 after Steinbrenner offered $920. Like it just seems like they're going back and forth, and it really does seem like it's down to those two. And I'm definitely going to be up late tonight, editing our podcast, but also just refreshing my Twitter feed, because I think once he signs, I think the chips are really going to fall. Like there's a rumor that the Blue Jays are not even talking to other free agents until Juan Soto signs. Like he's like their number one priority. So yeah, I think a lot's going to happen, and hopefully it does tonight, so we can see more stuff happen at the winter meetings. But you touched on it. Monday, there's going to be a lot of discussions with GMs. There's going to be players signing. I mean, this happens all throughout the winter meetings, not just on Monday. There's just no special events scheduled for that day. And usually the winter meetings is held in like a convention center or a big event center where there's multiple conference rooms, or there's a hotel involved, and players will go to a hotel room of a GM. Like it's just a crazy event. Which brings us to Tuesday, the 10th. This is when the MLB draft lottery will be announced. The Pirates are slated for the 6th highest odds for the first overall pick. They have a 5.31% chance at getting the first pick. The leaders for the first pick are tied between the Rockies and the Marlins. They both have about 22.45% to get that top pick. So I would expect the Pirates to pick in the top 10. They might even pick higher than their pick last year, which was 9.
Right.
So, I'm sure we'll see a video of the Pirates front office jumping up and down again, but we're in the lottery again, which is I guess a good thing, but also a bad thing. We want to be able to draft towards the back of the draft at some point soon.
Yeah, well, still exciting. And then Wednesday, the Rule 5 draft will be held. A couple Pirates will be left unprotected, most notably Sammy Ciani, Eddie Yean, Omar Alfonso, which leaves them eligible to be picked by other organizations. Last year, the Pirates selected first baseman Seth Beer in the minor league phase of the draft. So we will keep you updated on everything we hear from that. And then after Wednesday, Sunday will be Noah Hilesday, who is down there right now. So we'll be able to get his insight on everything that he heard, and probably, I'd say hopefully, some good news, right? Yeah. Whether it goes for the Pirates or just MLB generally, I'm craving some free agent news, man. And we got that this week a little bit, but let's get to around the Central real quick. The Pirates did make some moves, right, Scott? Some familiar names. Hunter Stratton brought back on a minor league deal that he was recently non-tendered. I don't mind this. Good to bring the guy back. He didn't have a bad year prior to getting injured, and then he had a little bit of a stint, I believe, on the IL prior to coming back and then suffering that gruesome injury. And then Just Baseball reported that Tanner Rainey has signed with the Pirates on a minor league deal. Good move. It's his, like, no, why not? He's got major league experience, four-seam heavy slider, kind of a two-pitch guy with an occasional change. He's got big league experience, kind of like a big body guy. Nice, easy delivery. The ball, he has some good movement. But last year, I believe he was with Washington.
Yep.
And could be a potential bullpen piece. But we've talked about it before. Like, it's a crapshoot. You're going to have to find a lot of guys to fill that rotating door of arms throughout a grueling season.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like a Brent Honeywell signing from last year, where it's like a guy with big league experience is most likely going to start in AAA, and if he makes a team through spring training, he's got a spring training invite. But he's got a little bit more experience than Honeywell did. I will say that he has some high leverage experience too with the Nationals. Mostly a four-seam guy. He throws a four-seam like 72% of the time, and he has a slider too that he throws about 25% of the time. So mostly a two-pitch guy with the occasional changeup. It's just depth. Along with Stratton, we saw Stratton get invited to spring training last year and making the team. So more options, the better, I guess. Right. Moving on, though, some other central moves. Big time signing. The Giants signed Willy Adames to 7 years, $182 million. I don't know if you joined the Just Baseball free agency challenge, but I did that like a couple weeks ago, and I predicted Adames to the Giants for 7 years.
Oh, did you?
So it's the only one I've gotten right so far. But
okay, hey, it's a good one.
Yeah. So I originally had him going to the Dodgers, but then I was just like, I think the Giants are definitely going to, with Buster Posey at GM, they're definitely going to go in for a big signing. But he's out of the Central, which is good news. It looks like Joey Ortiz is going to be the next shortstop for the Brewers, which was predictable. They weren't going to re-sign Adames. But good for him for getting his bag and getting it early.
7 years, $182 million, which is interesting because the Yankees, I believe, were waiting on Soto. And then I think they said Adames could be like a fallback guy.
I'm happy he's sticking at shortstop, man. Like these teams talking about moving him to third, it would have been like a Jeter A-Rod situation.
Sure. Well, they didn't even have the chance, right? And no. I think they're both Boris clients.
Yep.
So Boris kind of was like, "Hey, screw your fallback." Like he's off the table. So
and usually
other guy more money.
Big dogs out, or he doesn't like get his low level signings out of the way first. He focuses on the big dogs he has. And I mean, Adames was obviously a big dog, but like Soto is a different monster. So
right, that's feeding his family for generations. It's crazy. And then, hey, former Bucco Edward Olivares signed with the Mets on a minor league deal, and then the Orioles signed former Brewer Gary Sanchez to a 1-year deal. That wasn't the only move that the Orioles made, Scott, which we'll get into last here. But let's run through the league and some other notable signings.
Should we do the rumors first?
Yeah, go for the rumors. Let's hear it.
Because there are some rumors out there. I'm a big gossip guy. I know you are too, sure. But some rumors that figured we do this first because they're around the Central. The Cubs have been rumored on a lot of things. But first of all, Walker Buehler is on their radar. They're looking to upgrade the rotation. They signed Boyd last week to a 2-year deal. They have a decent rotation. It's not going to it's not going to blow anyone away, but they got Imanaga, they've got Javier Assad, they've got Tyon, and they just signed Matt Boyd. Adding Walker Buehler to that mix would be huge. They also have really big prospects coming up in Cade Horton and Jordan Wicks. So they've got a lot of arms depth-wise, but they're also, and this has been no secret, they're determined to trade Cody Bellinger and Seiya Suzuki too. They want to reallocate that salary elsewhere. They have a deep farm system, but I feel like they may have little leverage left with how public they've made these rumors of wanting to get rid of both of these guys, especially Bellinger.
Yeah, they've put themselves in an interesting situation because they really don't have a direction at the moment. They're trying to unload these names, Bellinger and Suzuki. They got a decent roster, but like they're in need of like a big name, right? To kind of come in and turn this thing around. And it just doesn't seem like it's going to happen this year.
Yeah.
Right. I think they're going to make more moves to try and benefit the overall organization rather than focusing on even competing in the Central, which I think they will to a certain degree, but it's going to be tough. Like they just went all out on a manager last year. They gave Bellinger that 3-year, $80 million contract, and then they immediately tried to get rid of him. I don't think these are two names that the Pirates will check in on, to be honest with you.
Let me ask you this. Like Bellinger, obviously not. Like that's not going to happen. But like if Seiya Suzuki was on a different team, would you kick the tires on him? I don't know what his contract looks like though, actually. So let me pause there. I like Seiya Suzuki as a player, but obviously I don't think that trade's going to happen in division.
So it's really, I mean, his glove is awful.
Yeah.
In the outfield. And I think any Cubs fan will tell you that. That being said, so he's on a 5-year, $85 million contract. His average salary is $17 million a year.
Could have just given it to Tyler O'Neill, who's better defensively.
Right. And again, we're going to get into that because you're going to hear us rant a little bit. But yeah, sure. I would kick the tires because it's easily an upgrade for the offense. But it's either I'm going to DH this guy or I'm going to try and stick him out in right field and fingers crossed like he's not worse than BDLC.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Before you get in on some other news around the league, I just want to finish off the rumors here. The Cubs apparently discussed a Jordan Montgomery, Cody Bellinger trade, which would be a funny match because Cody would probably move back to first with Christian Walker leaving. And both teams have been very public about wanting to get rid of these players, Jordan Montgomery, Cody Bellinger, for different reasons. And the Guardians are also open to trading Josh Naylor and Lane Thomas, who they acquired at last year's deadline. And I bring this up because the Cincinnati Reds are showing a lot of interest, apparently. So that's something to watch, too, because new manager Terry Francona, they just made a big trade with Jonathan India, Brady Singer. Could they add more offense with Naylor and Thomas? I mean, I don't know if it's both of them or one of them, but that would be an interesting fit for those two.
Yeah. And the Reds have a lot of young guys that didn't necessarily perform last year. Noel V. Marte had a rough year with the suspension and coming back, not necessarily getting off to the best start, but a lot of young guys that can easily contribute and make that a very good team. Like the rotation is going to be very good.
Yeah.
For 100%. The Reds with Hunter
for
Green,
that ballpark,
Rhett Lauder. I mean, for that ballpark, but like, yeah, Hunter Green, Rhett Lauder, Nick Martinez, who's
Nick Lodolo.
Nick Lodolo. I like what they're doing over there. I think Josh Naylor would also be a good fit, but I think also it's something the Pirates should at least make a call on, right?
Kick the tires on it. Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
I don't even know if it's like kicking I mean, yeah, sure, kick the tires, but like I think that's like a very viable option.
Yeah. I think and we'll get into the trade options here in a little bit, but I think Naylor would be a little bit more expensive than some other options, but I think he would be an upgrade to what they had clearly. So, and worth it.
Absolutely. Well, the Rangers signed catcher Kyle Higashioka to a 2-year, $12.5 million deal. So they got a nice catching duo over there in Texas. And then the Athletics, the Sacramento Athletics, just handed out the largest guaranteed free agent contract in A's franchise history. 3 years, $67 million. What a slap in the face to everybody that has supported this team in Oakland for the history of their being, right? Like the minute they move out of the Coliseum and they go to Sacramento while they wait for Vegas to be ready, they give Luis Severino $67 million. And I think they had to make some type of splash with the heat on them. And I think they had to prove to the owners that they were going to spend money. But man, I did not see that coming.
I feel bad for notorious Bay Area resident Andrew Destin.
Oof.
You know, that was a tough, news break. And it was also tough for Pirates fans to hear, like, hey, if the A's can sign this type of contract and attract a guy to play in a AAA ballpark in Sacramento, why can't we make this type of signing?
Right. We got the best ballpark in America, and this guy's going to play at a minor league stadium in the most undesirable place in California, right? Usually, like that's like a selling point. Sacramento is not a selling point.
No.
Okay. I don't know. Nothing. I mean, I've only been to Sacramento a handful of times, but really, what are we doing here? Like, which obviously begs the question, like, if the A's can do this, then why can't the Pirates?
Yep.
The Pirates' biggest free agent contract 3 years, $39 million to Liriano. It's got to change, man. Especially when teams like the A's are handing out contracts like this. Now the A's might not do anything else for the rest of the offseason.
Sure.
Right. They have a lot of young pieces. They just drafted a really good bat in Nick Kurtz that could be ready very soon. Jacob Wilson made a debut.
I actually like Rooker. They're trying to extend. I just saw on Twitter. So
Lawrence Butler, like they actually have a good thing going on over there. And maybe they see an opportunity to add to this, but really just like adds, a little bit of a kick in the butt. Like, hey, let's go. And that brings us to the most notable one of the week, where we have talked about often, is Tyler O'Neill. 3 years, $49.5 million to the Baltimore Orioles, who had a disappointing year last year. They should have been a top team in the AL East, and they kind of fell off. They didn't get the production they needed out of Jackson Holiday. They got a young squad still coming back next year. They don't have a lot of pitchers. They're going to lose Corbin Burns. And they add Tyler O'Neill to solidify the outfield, probably a replacement for Anthony Santander. But what a big signing. What a great signing for the Orioles. It's a great fit. They just moved the fence in there. So we were just talking about this yesterday in our group chat, and he had 31 home runs last year.
Yeah, when he had 22 or something like that.
He would have had 22, 23 home runs in Camden last year, but now they're moving the fence in. So I'm sure that had some, piece in the puzzle for him to sign there. But that's a good contract. That's a contract that the Pirates could have easily given out. Easily, right?
Easily.
So I think there might be an opt-out after year one for him, which the Pirates historically don't want to do. But you got to get with the times, man. Like, if you're going to make this an attractive destination, if you want people to come play in Pittsburgh with your Paul Skeens, your Jared Jones, your Bubba Chandler, your Brian Reynolds, your O'Neill Cruz, that's all fine and well. But if things don't work out, like, you don't want people unhappy here. Like, you want to bring people in and say, okay, like, we're player friendly. Like, yeah, we're going to give you this deal and we're going to give you an opt-out. We'll give you a trade clause. And they just don't operate like that. They operate like that with guys that won't necessarily call for those types of clauses in their contract. The guys that don't have the leverage to call for an opt-out, to call for a trade clause, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to wait for the bottom of the barrel or the stragglers to come in and say, okay, well, yeah, we'll give you a 1-year deal. We don't want these other clauses that might give you, the player, the upper hand, which it's not a good look. It really isn't. It's not a winning strategy. You got to spend money and you got to give out player friendly contracts in order for more players to want to come here and sign.
I think everything should be on the table. I don't care if you don't generally do opt-outs, whatever types of clauses in your contracts. Like, when you have a Paul Skeens, when you have a Jared Jones, when you have this young core, I think everything should be on the table. And that is to be seen this offseason. We haven't seen much. We've only seen minor league deals. But, I mean, if it were the Pirates and Orioles offering the same contract, I'm sure Tyler O'Neill would have taken the Orioles deal.
Oh, 100%, because you're going to a great division. You're going to a team that has shown that they can compete. They have former rookie of the year. They have MVP candidates on that team. It's a great atmosphere over there in Baltimore. But you go back to GMBC's comments, like, we got to get better, right? Like, we're on he essentially said, like, hey, my job's up for grabs next year if we don't get our shit together, right? Yeah. Shelty's job's up for grabs if we do not win. As you mentioned, they've made moves in the front office, which we have said, hey, that's great. These are good moves, because the Pirates most likely need to change this before they get to the player development. But do you think he was referencing getting better in terms of just that? Like, isn't that scary, right? Like, there was no, like, hey, we're going to go out and we're going to do something different, right? We never heard that. We never heard, although we've heard the bullshit rumors from all the fake accounts, like, oh, the Pirates are set up to spend more money than they ever have this offseason. We've never heard that directly from the front office. We've never heard that they're going to get creative with these trade deals, as we have suggested in recent history. Do you think when he said they need to get better, he was referring to the front office, to Shelton, and that's why this has been the main focus up to date? I know it's still early, but like that could be a concern where it's still not addressing the elephant in the room.
100%. I think anyone who's watched Pirates baseball over the last couple of years and who has witnessed what this front office, their habits and the things they say, I think you would be stupid not to think that, because you never heard news like you said. Like the Angels came out and said they're going to increase payroll. Like teams said that they're going to slash payroll. Like the Rangers, like there's been like news drops like that. You never heard anything about payroll specifically with the Pirates. We had guesses and estimates given like the last couple of years and the trends. But for the Pirates, especially this year, I feel like this was the closest that, I think you and I like paid attention to the team, even though we always paid close attention given the podcast. There was a lot of comments early on in the season with sticking with guys and, improvements coming, like they're playing below their expectations and they're going to improve. And those keywords to me, I'm relating to like the quotes that you're saying from GMBC for this offseason. Like, hey, we just need to get our guys better. Well, you don't have a good enough core to win right now. Like like, sure, like better coaching will help somewhat, but like you need better players. Like, and I think that's the elephant in the room that needs to be addressed. And maybe they will increase payroll. Maybe they will sign some free agents. I don't know, but like, it's fair for us to have these thoughts given our last couple of years around this organization.
Yeah, Pirates fans have every reason to be skeptical.
Yeah.
Right? I think we should still remain optimistic because, hey, we're an optimistic podcast. We're never going to sit here and cover a team and hope they do well and then just trash them the whole time, especially in the offseason where anything can happen. And guess what? Anything can still happen, but it's frustrating when we kind of set ourselves up for disaster, right? When we kind of romanticize this perfect fit, and we're not the only ones doing it. There's a lot of other people that predicted that Tyler O'Neill would be a great fit in Pittsburgh. And hey, it didn't go our way. But I think this sets the Pirates up for something that they can do that could be very special. And that's getting creative in the trade market, because you're right. They're not going to be the most attractive destination for a top tier free agent or like a B+ free agent. But a guy like Heston Kierstad with Baltimore, who is being shoved out of that lineup right now.
I think
especially with O'Neill coming in.
Yeah.
This is the most obvious move that you can make right now, and it should be done tomorrow. This should be something that they jump on right away. We talked about being aggressive. We talked about getting ahead of the curve. Make the Orioles an offer that they can't refuse, where they can send a young bat with control. That's the Pirates' dream, right? They want a guy that they can have for an extended period of time. Well, guess what? You could bring a legitimate lefty power bat that can play a corner outfield position for one of your many arms, major league ready or prospects. This is a match made in heaven.
It really is. Like, you look at some of these other options, like he has by far the most control. He's ARB eligible in 2027 and a free agent in 2030. Like he's got Pirates written all over it. He bats. He's a lefty bat. He's a power bat. They've also flirted with him playing a little bit of first base or DHing, but I don't like, you could stick him in a corner, and he's not just power, but like he provides bat to ball skills that we haven't seen in our corner outfield outside of Brian Reynolds, of course. In AAA last year, just for instance, in 258 AAA appearances, he went 300, 397, 601 with a 162 WRC plus, 998 OPS. Like, those are huge numbers. I know that Norfolk AAA team was unbelievable, but even at the big league level, he had 114 plate appearances. He went 253, 351, 394 with a 116 WRC plus. That 116 WRC plus would have ranked third on the Pirates major league roster last year.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Like, seriously, like that. It's just the move makes too much sense that I'm becoming skeptical of it, because he just seems like a perfect fit in the black and yellow. I really, I think he's at the top of my list right now. I'm also a big Jake McCarthy fan, but I think Hessen Kjerstad provides you a power that some of these other guys don't.
Yeah, I think point blank, this is the move that needs to be made. Like, if we're talking about a serious organization, someone that's trying to capitalize on this window, you have Paul Skeens, you want to go spend money, you want to go make moves. This is the perfect move. The Orioles do not have a strong rotation. They have a good rotation. They do not have a strong rotation. They do not have a strong system of arms. They have young arms. They have, oh, I wouldn't even say, yeah, no, they have some young arms. I mean, Grayson Rodriguez is 25 years old, right?
Like
Then you look at
Chase
the rest
McDermott,
of it.
Cade Povich.
Yeah. Right now, it's Zach Eflin, Grayson Rodriguez, Dean Kramer, Albert Suarez, and Trevor Rogers.
Yeah, I'm off of Trevor Rogers too. Like,
yeah, it's not going to cut it for a team that's trying to compete in the AL East. It's just
let me throw this out here, and I don't think this is realistic. But there's another bat from Baltimore that I like, and I don't think that they would package them because I think it would take a pretty big return, just given the control and the type of players and I don't think they would give up both of them in the same package. Ryan Mountcastle is another option from Baltimore, and I say that with the recent news that Brian Reynolds is going to be a temporary first baseman. It sounds like a platoon, going to go back and forth from the outfield, maybe DH to first base. And this is a guy who definitely suffered the consequences of the outfield fence moving back a little bit. He's got a lot of power. He 271, 308, 425 with a 108 WRC plus, 733 OPS, and 500 some plate appearances last year. He's a righty bat who crushes lefties. So you could easily platoon him with Reynolds. 13 homers, 63 RBIs. He doesn't walk a lot. 5% walk rate, 22.5% K rate, doesn't K a ton. Like, that's definitely league average. He's ARB eligible next year. He's a free agent in 27. He's 27 years old. He's another guy that I think you could put in the middle of this order, and I think he'd do very well in PNC Park.
Okay, so let's talk about it then. So then you're suggesting they make room for Kobe Mayo on the roster?
Because the Orioles have in the outfield, they've got O'Neill, Mullins, O'Hearn. Who am I? I'm definitely missing somebody. Who else?
Daz Cameron's on the bench. They have the outfield is Mullins, O'Neill, and Colton Cowser.
Oh, Colton Cowser. And I think unless Ryan O'Hearn's a free agent, but still, like, Hessen Kjerstad is not like valuable as a fourth outfielder. So like it makes sense to get something for him right now. You're not going to throw him back at AAA at 25, 26 years old. I think he's a big league player. Ryan Mountcastle, they've got a lot of guys. They've got a lot of players coming up through Norfolk, through that system. We thought Kobe Mayo was going to make a big impact last year. He didn't really get up for an extended period of time. I think he will this year, and I think you have Ryan O'Hearn, if he's still there, that can play first base too. So you can play him there temporarily until Mayo's ready. But Ryan Mountcastle's a guy, like, you're not going to pay him, so get something for him.
Okay, so we've established Mountcastle and Kjerstad are good options.
Yep.
What do we send to Baltimore to make that happen? I think one name that comes to mind is Luis Ortiz, because that's a major league ready arm who was a great contributor last year. He showed that he could either be the long man or he could be a legitimate starting pitcher, which in this case, he's got to be a legitimate starting pitcher. I think that's, if you're talking both, I think if you're just talking one or the other, I think Luis Ortiz for a bat from Baltimore is a solid deal. And then maybe like you throw in like a lower level arm, maybe a Xander Meath. Or I mean, like someone who's down in Greensboro or Bradenton still, right? That's not going to make an impact for the near future. If you're talking both, that's where it gets interesting, right? Well, because you could package Luis Ortiz, you could talk a Thomas Harrington, you could talk a Braxton Ashcraft, you could talk Mike Burrows, right?
Well, that's where I think there are four arms and that are going to be mentioned in trades a lot. And we talked about this a little bit before. I think it's going to, in the big league level, it's going to be Luis Ortiz and Bailey Falter. And then I think Ashcraft and Burrows are going to be brought up a lot. You've mentioned Harrington too. So let's say 5 arms. Like I think those are arms that could be moved. Yeah, I think trading for both of them will be tricky. I really do. Like I just given the years of control, their big league bats. Like I think it would take a bigger haul than we might expect. But I think you could get Kerstad for like Luis Ortiz. I really do.
Yeah,
Maybe throw in
a lower level arm.
Yeah, or even a bat.
Do you think you could get both of them? And again, this is a very tall task. Like this is probably not going to happen. But like if we're talking fit, it's a good fit. If you're the Pirates, do you throw them Luis Ortiz and Thomas Harrington and a Michael Kennedy? I know that's a lot, right? And I think I'm focusing more on like the Thomas Harrington aspect of that because Michael Kennedy's still a guy that's in low A. That's not going to make an impact for a long time. It's an arm that we really like. But like if you're trying to make serious moves, you need to make serious contributions to the move. And that would be serious, no?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think everything should, like I said before, everything should be on the table. I think you should be willing to discuss everyone. And I think these two organizations know each other's farm systems better than anybody because of their proximity in Florida. They play each other a lot in the backfields in the Complex League and in the Florida Gulf Coast League. So they are a good trade partner for many, many reasons.
And they just made a trade recently.
And they just made a trade. They gave us an area need and we gave them an area need. And I think it might end up paying off for both of us, hopefully. But I really like the fit. I can't stress that enough. And I know that's been talked about a lot in this offseason, but there's unless you have something else to talk about with Baltimore, I just want to bring up one other name in the AL East that I have written down. There's a lot of guys, and I've talked ad nauseum about Jake McCarthy. I'm a big Jake McCarthy fan. He's also a guy with a lot of years in control, and he's young and was a good defender. But another one is Wilyer Abreu from the Red Sox, who we also made a trade with them last year. It was York for Priester. Wilyer Abreu, as it stands right now, will probably eventually be the 4th outfielder in Boston. He went 253, 322, 459 with a 114 WRC plus. That would rank third on the Pirates last year too. He had a 781 ops. He's a lefty bat, throws left-handed, had 15 homers, 58 RBIs, 8 stolen bases, 9% walk rate, 28% K rate, a little bit higher than Mountcastle and around Kerstad's level. He's ARB eligible in 26. He's a free agent in 29. He's only 25 years old. Their outfield is going to consist of Jarren Duran, Cedane Rafaela. Teoscar Hernandez is rumored to be a huge priority for them, especially if they miss out on Soto, which is likely. And they also have this guy named Christian Campbell who and Roman Anthony is the number 1 prospect in baseball. 2 really good prospects. I think that this is another good trade fit because they also need arms. Their current rotation is Tanner Houck, Brian Bayo, Cutter Crawford, a guy named Dick Fitz, great name.
Hell yeah.
And Cooper Criswell. I mean, Lucas Giolito and Garrett Whitlock will come back, but Garrett Whitlock will probably go to the bullpen. They definitely need an arm. Are they in on Crochet? I don't know. But I think Wilyer Abreu, not only does he provide a solid bat, but he provides plus defense. And that's something that I'm really prioritizing this offseason for the corner outfield.
That would be a great move. Again, it's kind of similar to the move that you would have to make with the Orioles, right? You're going to have to give up arms. Most likely either a major league arm. Like if you can't get a deal done with Luis Ortiz, like that could also be another option here, right? Mike Burrows could be a good option here. I also think Boston's going to be heavily in on Garrett Crochet.
Yeah, I do too.
So that could throw a little bit of a mix to it, but then they still need bullpen help. They just brought in Chapman. Who's to say maybe like a Braxton Ashcraft could be a good fit for them. I like Wilyer Abreu, man. Like, yeah, I think we've really kind of honed in on offense this offseason because that's just been a major point for the Pirates to kind of fix, and we've kind of been like, yeah, well, maybe we'll sacrifice like the glove. It can't get any worse, right? It can't get worse than what Reynolds did. It can't get worse than what BDLC did. So as long as they can contribute offensively, then we'll be okay with it. You're getting an upgrade both sides of the ball here. Yeah. And I think that's another call that needs to be made. Wilyer Abreu. I don't think it's out of the question. I think this is a name that's been brought up in trade discussions in the past couple of weeks, and the Pirates could be a very good fit if they're willing to make the moves that are necessary.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, and I've said it like 3 or 4 times already this episode, everything should be on the table. All options should be exhausted. I'm really looking forward and also dreading this next week, because if it comes to Wednesday or even Sunday with Noah and we don't have any new moves to talk about or good news, I'm going to be really disappointed. I'll just throw that out there.
Here's one more that I'll bring up, and then we'll probably wrap this episode here. Adolis Garcia is something that we've brought up, and they're going down to Dallas, right? Let's get a deal done for Adolis Garcia. He's going to make $9.5 million next year for ARB. Not bad.
No.
$9.5 million. Texas needs arms. The same trade packages apply.
Yeah,
I think in this situation here, which gives you options, right? Like you can go out and get an Adolis Garcia. You can go out and get a Heston Kjerstad. You can go out and get a Wilyer Abreu. You could fill these spots with the assets that you have now that aren't going to contribute immediately, or that could potentially contribute just at another change of scenery in a Boston, in a Baltimore, in a Texas. This is another corner outfield spot. He had a bad year defensively. You could get him probably for a lot cheaper than you could potentially get Heston Kjerstad, believe it or not.
In a trade package, yes.
Yeah, in a trade package, just because he had a very bad year last year compared to what he did in 2023. I'm not saying that he can't get back to that, but it's another power bat that you could put out in right field, and you could send a couple of arms to Texas. It's a good move.
Yeah, 100%. I think he provides pedigree, experience, like all that, more power to this lineup that desperately needs it. I'm going to make a rebuttal. I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I like Adolis Garcia, but if you had the options, and I know I'm just trying to think of someone inside the Pirates front office. If you had the options between Adolis Garcia, trading for Adolis Garcia, Heston Kjerstad, Wilyer Abreu, I think Adolis finishes last in that list, solely because of the money that you're going to be paying them next year. Now, like $9.5 million compared to Heston Kjerstad and Wilyer Abreu are like at the beginning of their ARB years. So like they're going to be making like $750K next year. Like, and with so much years in control, same with Jake McCarthy too. Like that's why those moves make, like, I actually believe in these players, and they're cheap. They're really cheap. Now, if you want to maintain and maybe you're going to spend more on a guy, but you're going to keep more, like a Braxton Ashcraft or a Thomas Harrington, you're not going to have to give them up. Then yeah, I think a trade like that makes sense. But I'm just, throwing out that opposite side there. I think there are like really cheap, really good options out there. And I'm not trying to sound cheap, but these guys are actually good players, and they just make too much sense for the Pirates. And I don't want to see another year go by where the Pirates don't maximize on Skeen's value, but also maximize on some guys' trade value. Braxton Ashcraft could blow out tomorrow and like never be worth anything. And I think that's been a common theme, especially in the Cherington era. We haven't been able to move our most valuable trade chips, or we move them too late. I'd rather trade a guy too early than too late.
I don't disagree with you. Like, I think Kjerstad and Abreu, I definitely would prioritize those moves over Adolis Garcia.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, well, one, because you're going to pay them $750,000 to $800,000. They're pre-ARB guys. They're both 25 years old. They're both lefty bats. I mean, historically speaking, like the Pirates probably won't do it. And then Adolis could be a move where it drags throughout the offseason. It's like, all right, well, let's go do this then. Right. I don't think I wouldn't call making moves for Kerstead like cheap, right? I wouldn't
No.
moves for Abreu cheap. I would call those strategic. I would call those necessary moves. But like in terms of cheap, like it's going to cost you a pretty penny, right? Like you're going to have to go out and give some valuable prospects to do that. Whereas with Adolis, you might not have to give as much to get a guy with less control.
Yeah, 100%. They're both going to cost you in different ways. Like, do they want to take that payroll hit, or do they want to take the prospect hit? That's the big question. And right now, like I'm all for, like, I don't think there's really an untradeable guy outside of Bubba Chandler in this organization, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
But given, I know they've made a lot of moves front office wise and changes in the player development space, and they're looking for a new farm director, I'd bet more on taking, I don't know. It's tough to say. Like I'd probably bet more on taking the salary hit than the prospect hit. But at this point with this organization, that's kind of going against my argument. But it's going to cost you regardless.
Who plays second base for the Red Sox?
Are you cooking up a Termarr trade?
Possibly. Like you mentioned, like no one else, like outside of Bubba, no one else should be untouchable, which I, like, for the most part agree, because they really don't have any bats to part with outside of Termarr. But like if you could bring the right return back, like maybe that's a bat where you should consider throwing that in if it's the right move. But again, it's a little close to the heart. Like I still want to keep one of our best bats in the system, and I like the progress that he made through the AFL, and I'd like to see another year in the Pirates organization before making that move. But if it's going to yield the right return, it's something that you should definitely consider.
Yeah, right now it's listed David Hamilton as their starting second baseman, and Vaughn Grissom's also an option. But I think their future second baseman is probably Christian Campbell, unless he plays the outfield. He was a prospect that really emerged for them this year, giving like Mookie type of feels, I think, for the Red Sox. Plays a little bit,
which means they won't pay him.
Yeah, exactly. He's gonna be traded to the Dodgers for Alex Verdugo in 10 years. So, I mean, listen. I'm open to trading Termarr. I would have to be for the right price or the right guy.
Right. So I think it's just really just Bubba. It's outside of Bubba.
For me, it's just Bubba. Like, I think Bubba's a generational prospect. I wouldn't call anyone else in this system generational. A Connor Griffin.
Fair.
We'll see. We haven't seen him yet. So,
yeah, too early to tell. Well, I think all of this is too early to tell right now until these meetings get kicked off tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll have some more news for you in Wednesday's episode. But if you don't already, go follow us on all social media accounts. It helps a ton if you go on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen to your podcast, download the episode, leave a 5-star review. That helps us out more than you could ever imagine. And if you're watching it, we appreciate you. Subscribe, leave a comment, like the video, share it on social media. Again, that helps us out a ton. And then go to the Bucko Banter merch store, man.
Yeah.
I don't know why you haven't bought your gifts yet. You're slacking. Christmas is coming up. The holidays are coming up. You need gifts under the tree. Go get a sweater. Go get an ornament. Whatever your heart desires. We'll have another deal here coming up soon. But if you get something, let us know. Tag us on social media that you bought something. And then, of course, we have our card competitions. We're giving away the Drew Maggi autograph card tonight, and then we'll have another awesome one this week. So shout out to the Closet Cards and Consignments for hooking it up, and can't wait to give away more really cool baseball cards.
Yeah, go to the Bucko Banner store. Derek Shelton is going to come down your chimney and hand deliver the gifts. So get your gifts.
Is that his
for
job?
Your loved ones.
That's his job in the off season. Is Santa Claus
in Western PA?
I've never seen Santa and Derek Shelton in the same place.
People are asking. Just saying.
You never know. All right,
leave out
here.
Some cookies and icy light for Derek Shelton on Christmas night.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right. On that note, until next time, let's raise it.
Raise it.
Rockin' 101, she compliment my taste. Whiskey in my lemonade, cause I like the way it tastes. Best seats at the Pirates game, they let me run the base. Yeah, my time is like my money, cause I can't afford to waste. Wifey is a lawyer, take my date to my dates, or the steak by the plates. And